Hi, I'm Jason. I've decided to do this video because of information that I've known about for many years but never really understood. When I say understood, I've never understood the grave implications it has on our lives, on this world, on our spirituality as Christians, as human beings, more so as Christians. I'm going to be talking to you about Haarp. I'm going to be talking to you about Cern, or the Large Hadron Collider. I'm going to be talking to you about the system in this world, and it's not going to be my words. I'm going to be reading information that is openly available on the internet, and I'm reading it because it explains it far better than I could ever think that I could. I can't explain these things because a lot of it's too scientific or elaborate. I can understand it when I read it, but I can't explain it. So I'm hoping you're familiar with Haarp, H-A-A-R-P. It's a secret weapon used for weather modification and electromagnetic warfare. A lot of people like to say it's conspiracy theories. And a lot of things happening in this world, they like to say there are conspiracy theories. That's the way the media cover things up. So you don't believe it, you don't want to believe it, because you don't want to think that your world, your life is more complicated than you want it to be. Haarp is an acronym for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. High frequency meaning they use technology, they use physics. Active auroral meaning they use the atmosphere. Research program meaning they're still experimenting as they're doing things. It's very little known to majority of the world, yet critically it's important. It's an important US military defense program, which has generated quite a bit of controversy in certain circles. Now, I'm actually reading this from a website called Global Research. It's www.globalresearch.ca, and you'll find all this information there, but I'm going to read it to you now. Though denied by Haarp officials, some respected researchers allege that secret electromagnetic warfare capabilities of Haarp are designed to forward the US military's stated goal of achieving full spectrum dominance by the year 2020. Others go far as to claim that Haarp can and has been used for weather modification, to cause earthquakes, to cause tsunamis, to disrupt global communication systems and more. Now it's May the 13th, 2015. We've been experiencing horrendous earthquakes and volcanoes, etc., tsunamis over the last decades. But they're getting worse and worse, and of course we've had very, very bad earthquakes in Nepal in the last week or so. Major aspects of the program are kept secret for alleged reasons of national security. Yet there is no doubt that Haarp and electromagnetic weapons capable of being used in warfare do exist. According to the official Haarp website, Haarp is a scientific endeavor aimed at studying the properties and behavior of the ionosphere, with particular emphasis on being able to understand and use it to enhance communications and surveillance systems for both civilian and defense purposes. The ionosphere is the delicate upper layer of our atmosphere, which ranges from about 30 miles to 600 miles above the surface of the Earth. Now, I'm just going to re-emphasize something here. Haarp is a scientific endeavor, this is a quote, aimed at studying the properties and behavior of the ionosphere with particular emphasis of being able to understand and use it to enhance communications and surveillance systems for both civilian and defense purposes. Civilian and defense purposes. And yet this was designed to forward the US military's stated goal of achieving full spectrum dominance by the year 2020. The Haarp website acknowledges that experiments are conducted which use electromagnetic frequencies to fire pulsed directed energy beams in order to temporarily excite a limited area of the ionosphere. Some scientists state that purposefully disturbing this sensitive layer could have major, even disastrous consequences. Concerned Haarp researchers of the University of Ottawa and Alaska present evidence suggesting that these disturbances can even cause tsunamis and earthquakes. I omitted the names they put here, but if you want to read it, I've put it on Facebook. Again, I'll emphasize, present evidence suggests that these disturbances can cause tsunamis and earthquakes. Two key major media documentaries, one by Canada's public broadcasting network CBC and the other by the History Channel, reveal the inner workings of Haarp in a most powerful way. The very well researched CBC documentary includes this key quote: "It isn't just conspiracy theorists that are concerned about Haarp. In January 1999, the European Union called the project a global concern and passed a resolution calling for more information on its health and environmental risks. Despite these concerns, officials at Haarp insist the project is nothing more sinister than a radio science research facility." To view the European Union document which brings Haarp and similar electromagnetic weapons into question, you can do that research. The actual wording in this document states that the EU considers Haarp, by virtue of its far-reaching impact on the environment, to be a global concern and calls for its legal, ecological and ethical implications to be examined by an international independent body before any further research and testing. This revealing document further states that the EU regrets the repeated refusal of the US government to send anyone to give evidence on Haarp. Now, it's a 15-minute documentary on CBC, which is, where is it from? Canada. And then there's a 45-minute documentary on the History Channel. They also do other secret weapons used for electromagnetic warfare. But here's two quotes from the History Channel documentary. "Electromagnetic weapons pack an invisible wallop hundreds of times more powerful than the electrical current in a lightning bolt." Lightning bolt is as powerful as I can ever imagine being hit by. And this electromagnetic weapon packs 100 times more power than a lightning bolt. One can blast enemy missiles out of the sky. Another could be used to blind soldiers on the battlefield. Still another to control an unruly crowd by burning the surface of their skin. If detonated over a large city, an electromagnetic weapon could destroy all electronics in seconds. They all use directed energy to create a powerful electromagnetic pulse. And I do believe they call it EMF, which they also used in the movie The Matrix. This is the second quote, directed energy is such a powerful technology it could be used to heat the ionosphere to turn weather into a weapon of war. Imagine using a flood to destroy a city, or tornadoes to decimate an approaching army on the desert. The military has spent a huge amount of time on weather modification as a concept for battle environments. If an electromagnetic pulse went over a city, basically all the electronic things in their homes would wink and go out, and they would be permanently destroyed. For those who still doubt that such devastating secret weapons have been developed, there's another quote coming out of New Zealand, their newspaper, the New Zealand Herald. Top secret wartime experiments were conducted off the coast of Auckland to perfect a tidal wave bomb. Declassified files revealed this. United States Defense Chief said that if the project had been completed before the end of the war, it could have played a role as effective as that of the atom bomb. Details of the tsunami bomb, known as Project SEAL, are contained in 53-year-old documents, 53 years old, released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. 53 years old. That's going back to the 40s and 50s. Now, stick a pin there. When the Nazis were trying to invade Russia, they were stopped by an snowstorm which came out of nowhere. Don't you think the Germans would have studied the weather to see what was going to happen? To see that they weren't going to be hit by an unknown weather storm, and yet this came out of nowhere. Is it possible that they had Haarp, they were using Haarp back then to stop the Germans invading Russia? They used a snowstorm to stop the Germans in their tracks. Taking into account all this technology came from Tesla. Not that Tesla was using it, but he's the one that discovered it. Can't say invented, but he discovered it. And the Tesla's from 1890s. If the military secretly developed a weapon which could cause a tsunami over half a century ago, what kind of advanced deadly weapons might be available now? And why is it that the general public still don't know about secret weapons developed over 50 years ago? To understand why the media isn't covering these highly critical issues, you need to do your research. Clearly, the military has the capability to cause a tsunami and likely to cause earthquakes and hurricanes as well. It's time for us to take action to spread the word in this vital topic. Now, I'm going to put this link to this document under this video. So where it says you need to click here, etc., etc., you can go through and you can actually read it all for yourself. Having interpreted four top generals, interpreter with the US Department of State, this is an interpreter speaking, It says, I learned that military planners are always interested in developing the most devastating weapons possible, yet these weapons are kept secret as long as possible, allegedly for reasons of national security. The many layers of intense secrecy both in the military and government result in very few people being aware of the gruesome capabilities for death and destruction that have been developed over the years. There are many examples of major defense projects kept successfully out of the public's eye for years and even decades. 50 years, even more than 50 years, this was invented, discovered. The massive Manhattan Project, development of the first atomic bomb, is one such example. The building of an entire city to support the project in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, was successfully kept secret even from the state's governor. The stealth bomber was kept top secret for many years, and the public still has no way of knowing its full capabilities. It is through the use of the highly organized military and intelligence services that the power elite of our world, working in cooperation with the key allies in government and corporate ownership of the media, are able to carry out major cover-ups and secret operations like those involved with Haarp. Some researchers have raised questions about the possible involvement of Haarp in major disasters like the earthquake in Haiti, Indonesian tsunami, Hurricane Katrina. Could these have been Haarp experiments gone awry? Might they have been caused by the rogue elements which gained control of the devastating technology? Of course, disasters like this happen regularly on a natural basis, yet if you begin to research, there is high strangeness around some of these disasters. The evidence is inconclusive, yet with the known and unknown major destructive capabilities of this weapon, serious questions remain. It mentions it mentions Katrina, the Indonesian tsunami, Haiti. I have a theory, whether it's proven or not, we don't know. Haiti is a country that has voodoo as its official religion, or an official religion. Bill Clinton helped that to become possible. As far as I was made aware, they then wanted to recant or revoke that, but they couldn't. Indonesian tsunami was the world's capital for child prostitution, child pornography, etc., etc. Hurricane Katrina, I don't know why they did that. I don't know. All I know is it took 5 days or 6 days for the American military to get any help down there. And yet, if something happens in Haiti or Chile or Japan or wherever else in the world, the American military can be there within 2 days. Hurricane Katrina wiped out a huge area of the southern state of America, which is predominantly black people. Coincidence? I don't think so. Haarp. Okay, let's go to Cern. Haarp, alright. Haarp is about depopulation. Depopulation. The New World Order, they're all about reducing the population of this planet so they can control the masses more easily. If you're a shepherd and you've got 10,000 sheep, you can't control them all. Granted, sheep are easier to control than a population of people. But if that 10,000 is reduced down to 700, they'll be far easier to control, less to control. And you can make them into sheeple. So the more they create disasters, they create earthquakes, they create tsunamis, they wipe out thousands of people. Less people to control, easier to control. Cern, otherwise known as the Large Hadron Collider. Now this is where it gets even more technical. But this is where we get more on the spiritual side. The Haarp is more on the practical, physical side. They're just killing people off. But now we're getting more spiritual, and we are going to draw this closer to what I really want to say. So we're going to talk about Haarp. We've talked about Haarp. We're going to talk about Cern, or Large Hadron Collider. We're going to talk about the system in this world, and then we're going to bring it home to God. This is coming from National Geographic. Now, the reason I'm using this article is because I found it to be the easiest it's explained better and more in layman's terms, so to speak. National Geographic, is there a date? This was coming from March 2008. So this is already 7 years old. This information. This is when Cern first got powered up. So he's called it the hunt for the God particle. If you were to dig a hole 300 feet straight down from the centre of the charming French village of Crozet, you'd pop into a settling that calls to mind the subterranean lair of one of those James Bond villains. A garishly lit tunnel 10 feet in diameter curves away into the distance, interrupted every few miles by lofty chambers crammed with heavy steel structures, cables, pipes, wires, magnets, tubes, shafts, catwalks, and enigmatic gizmos. These are his words. This technological netherworld is one very big scientific instrument, specifically a particle accelerator, an atomic pea shooter, more powerful than any ever built. It's called the Large Hadron Collider, and its purpose is simple but ambitious: to crack the code of the physical world. I repeat that: to crack the code of the physical world. Now remember, I mentioned the matrix earlier on. To figure out what the universe is made of. In other words, to go to the very bottom of things. Starting sometime in the coming months, two beams of particles will race in opposite directions around the tunnel, which forms an underground ring 17 miles in circumference. The particles will be guided by more than 1,000 cylindrical supercooled magnets linked like sausages. At 4 locations, the beams will converge, sending the particles crashing into each other at nearly the speed of light. If all goes right, matter will be transformed by the violent collisions into wads of energy, which will in turn condense back into various intriguing types of particles, some of them never seen before. That's the essence of experimental particle physics. You smash stuff together and see what other stuff comes out. How dangerous is that? Those masses of equipment spaced along the tunnel will scrutinize the spray from the collisions. The largest Atlas, ATLAS, has a detector that's 7 stories tall. The heaviest CMS, or compact muon solenoid, is heftier than the Eiffel Tower. Bigger is better if you're searching for smaller. That could be the motto at the European Organisation for Nuclear Research, better known for its historic acronym Cern, C-E-R-N, the international laboratory that houses the Large Hadron Collider. It sounds scary, and it is. Building the LHC in a tunnel was a prudent move. The particle beam could drill a hole in just about anything, although the most likely victim would be the apparatus itself. One minor calamity has already happened. A magnet all but jumped out of its skin during a test in March 2007. Since then, 24 magnets have been retrofitted to fix a design flaw. The people running the LHC aren't in a rush to talk about all the things that do go wrong, because the public has a way of worrying about mad scientists and perhaps creating a black hole that would devour the Earth, which is going to happen anyway. Well, not literally. The more plausible fear is that the collider will fail to find the things that scientists insist must be lurking in the deep substrate of reality. Such a big machine needs to produce big science, big answers, something that can generate a headline as well as interesting particles. But even an endeavour of this scale isn't going to answer all the important questions of matter and energy. Not a chance. This is because a century of particle physics has given us a fundamental truth. Reality doesn't reveal its secrets easily. Bearing in mind, the Large Hadron Collider, for those of you that do know about it, they say was invented or made to try and produce the Big Bang, prove the Big Bang Theory and reinvent or recreate the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is really badly flawed, because the Big Bang had to come from something. A bang doesn't come from anything, and if there was nothing, how can there be a bang? Stupid. So to put it this way, the universe is a tough nut to crack. Right. It said, I'm still reading. Go back a little more than a century to the late 1800s and look at the field of physics, a mature science and rather complacent. There were those who believed there wasn't much more to do than smooth out those rough edges in nature's plan. There was a sensible order to things, a clockwork universe governed by Newtonian forces, with atoms as the foundation of matter. Atoms were invisible by definition. The word comes from the Greek for uncuttable. But then strange things started popping up in laboratories. X-rays, gamma rays, a mysterious phenomenon called radioactivity. Physicist J.J. Thomson discovered the electron. Atoms were not indivisible after all, but had constituents. Was it, as Thomson believed, a pudding with electrons embedded like raisins? No. In 1911, physicist Ernest Rutherford announced that atoms are mostly empty space. Their mass concentrated in a tiny nucleus orbited by electrons. Physics underwent one revolution after another. Einstein's special theory of relativity in 1905 begat the general theory of relativity 1915. Suddenly, even such reliable concepts as absolute space and absolute time had been discarded in favour of a mind-boggling space-time fabric, which are two events that can never be said to be simultaneous. Matter bends space. Space directs how matter moves. Light is both a particle and a wave. Energy and mass are interchangeable. Reality is probabilistic and not deterministic. Einstein didn't believe that God plays dice with the universe, but that became the scientific orthodoxy. That's a new word, orthodoxy. Orthodoxy, there you go. Okay. I used to watch, do still at times, but not as much as I used to watch movies. The Matrix is very, very, very key to all of this, to Haarp, to the Large Hadron Collider, and to God. The Matrix was written by a very spiritual black woman, a Christian black woman. She wrote the story of the Matrix. It was those two guys that got all the accolade for the movie. They stole the idea. Eventually, she was able to win a court case to win the royalties and rights of the movie. She got a big payout for it, but you don't know about that because they don't want you to know about that. The Matrix covers everything about what is beyond the veil, what is real, what is not real. Where he says your eyes have not seen, your body has not moved, all his muscles, when he was taken out of the Matrix, none of his muscles were fit, none of his eyes couldn't see, etc., because they had never seen. Everything we see now is not as it should be. And I'm a strong believer, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I heard that phrase and I loved it. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Our bodies are a temple of God. We should be. Our bodies should be a temple of God. But we have so much evil, so much darkness and so much sin within us that God cannot dwell. Where there is darkness, there cannot be light. But where there is light, there cannot be darkness. It depends, obviously, if there's objects, there's shadows, but where there's light, there cannot. Where there is truth, there cannot be false. Shouldn't be. But there is. There's always a perfect balance. There's always a balance. Where there is light, there has to be a shadow. Where there is truth, there has to be a lie. There's also the movie The Truman Show, way back in the 80s, I think it was, with that comedian guy, I can't remember all their names now, Jim Carrey, where he is born into a film studio, and this film studio is the largest studio on the planet, and basically he thinks that is life. It's a reality show, and they film him every single minute of every day from the day he's born, or even before he's born, when he's a fetus, and everyone around us watching this show of him in his life, until one day he actually realizes something isn't as it should be, and he actually manages to break out of this studio and see life for what it is. That's what we are like now. We are, as it has been said, actors in a large theatre. We are all actors in this large play being played out in this theatre. I'll get back to this. By the early 1930s, Ernest Lawrence had invented the first circular particle accelerator, or the cyclotron, but he fit it in his hand. Now, a cyclotron particle accelerator produces immense amount of energy. Do you remember the movie Iron Man? Excuse me. Sorry, didn't prepare for that. Do you remember the movie Iron Man? And he had that particle accelerator in the middle of his chest, which gave him all the power to fly and do everything. All the information is in the movies. Now, the US government has an accelerator that's hidden beneath several square miles of tall grass prairie and a small herd of buffalo at its Fermilab facility west of Chicago. When you drive on the Junipero-Serra Freeway near Palo Alto, California, you pass directly over a 2-mile linear accelerator. The LHC crosses the border between two countries. There are still physicists who do tabletop physics who try to get big answers with modest means. But realistically, you need huge, powerful, energetic devices to pry open the fabric of reality. We know things today that Einstein, Rutherford, Max Planck, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg and the rest of the great physicists of a century ago couldn't have imagined. But we're nowhere near a final theory of physical reality. Molecules are made of atoms. Now, where it says here, we're nowhere near a final theory of physical reality, that's actually not the truth now. They are much, much, much closer. Molecules are made of atoms. Atoms are made of particles called protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons, which are the hadrons that give the collider its name, are made of odd things called quarks and gluons. And already we're going into fuzzy zone. Are quarks fundamental particles or made of something smaller yet? Electrons are believed to be fundamental, but you wouldn't want to bet your life on it. Still, theoretical physicists crave simplicity. They'd like to make a model of reality that snaps together neatly. Their standard model, developed in the 60s and 70s, is widely viewed as unwieldy, like a contraption with too many loose ends and knobs and dangling bits. It includes 57 fundamental particles with no rhyme or reason to many of the numbers describing how the particles interact. There's a guy called Joe Lycan who's a theorist at the Fermilab, and he says, we had a theory that started out really beautiful and elegant, and then someone beat on it and made it really ugly, which is probably true. Scientists trying to do good, trying to understand more, but the more they understand what's possible, the military get hold of it. The global powers get hold of it. The standard model can't explain several towering mysteries about the universe that have their roots in the minuscule world of particle and force. If there's one truly extraordinary concept to emerge from the past century of inquiry, it's that the cosmos we see, no. See, then they take it away from God. This Big Bang Theory is impossible to prove. This Large Hadron Collider is the scientists. Okay, let's go back to the atom. The atom splits into protons, neutrons, and electrons, but it gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the initial nucleus, which is a vortex of energy. A vortex is like a whirling, like a typhoon, so to speak, of energy. That energy is like nothing really, impossible for the eye to see. It's minute, it's just energy. But how can they prove where that energy comes from? It can only come from God. They know that, and I even read an article talking about Stephen Hawkins. He's trying to prove so much about evolutionism. The more he's searching to prove it, the more he's finding it's proving God to be real, that creation is real. The Large Hadron Collider is extremely dangerous, because now they are also, it is able to bend time and space. There's another movie that is out now and came out recently called Interstellar, I think it's called Interstellar. It's got Matthew McConaughey, and it is a fantastic movie. The reason I say that is because it actually is all about science. They're making out in the movie that the earth is running out of resources, etc., etc., and they need to find somewhere else to live, which is somewhat true, because they're controlling the food and killing off natural resource of food and just processing the food now where we live, what we're doing, where we're eating. And so we're not getting our minerals and our proteins, and therefore our bodies degenerate, which is happening now. I'm sorry to scare you if this is scaring you, but this is the truth. But in this movie, he goes into space to look for another planet to live on. But he wants to come back to Earth. But while he's in space, he goes through these black holes. And these scientists know that when you go to through these black holes, you go into another somewhat dimension. And for every hour you spend in this dimension, it's like 10 years on the planet Earth. So if I was to go through that black hole up in the sky and I was there for an hour, by the time I come back, all of you would be 10 years older. And for me, it's just an hour. And that's not exactly what it is, but that's just trying to help you understand. Time and space is relative. Albert Einstein, theory of relativity. Time and space. Space can bend time. And in this movie Interstellar, if you really look into it and understand it better, it brings it home. This guy goes into space for, I can't even remember how long it was, but he doesn't age at all while he's there. He's there for a while, maybe a few months. I can't remember exactly how long. But his daughter, who was something like 11 when he left, and he comes back a few months later, and she's 90 odd. It might have been months, it might have been weeks, but she's 90 odd. It's just showing how the theory of relativity, time and space has been, I don't fully understand it all, but you have to read these articles and do your research. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this Large Hadron Collider is creating black holes. It's creating stargates, you could say, gateways into the spiritual realm. And it talks about matter, which is the physical, and antimatter, which is the non-physical, the spiritual. And if you create antimatter, it becomes dark, what they call dark matter. which is evil. We all contain matter and antimatter, good and evil, dark and light. But the more you mess with the dark, it attracts more antimatter. As they say, birds of a feather flock together. If you mess with antimatter, it creates more antimatter. The demons of the spiritual world are able to come through. They're able to have more free entry into our world, so to speak. And they do, but we as physical humans can't see them. But if they're messing with all this technology, they're giving them access that we will be able to see them. That's a scary thought. Now that brings me to another movie called Batman. Batman with the guy who's just been Batman, not the new one, brand new one, but the one with I can't remember, it's Christian Bale. And there's where they're poisoning the water, and what they do is with the scarecrow, poisoning the water, and what they do, they vaporize the water, and it produces this vapor into the air like a gas substance. Everyone breathes in, and it causes everyone to have nightmares. And these nightmares are, you have your nightmare of what is worse, but you start to see things of a spiritual nature. If your nightmare is bats, everything you see is these scary bats and things like that. Now that's probably comicalizing it a bit, but it's how it's going to be. We will see demons. All these movies, they show you vampires and werewolves, etc., etc. It's to materialize it more in your mind. So when you see these demons and you think they're scary, you will actually, and they make themselves out to be vampires or werewolves, and if you're scared of them, you will actually see them and think they're real. Vampires, werewolves, they're not real, they're fiction. But you in your mind, because it becomes irrational, will think they're real. And this is what they're doing, this Large Hadron Collider. They're playing with the spiritual realm, which is highly, highly dangerous. You are a slave. You are a slave to their system. And I'm getting to this world as it is now, this system. You are a slave. You are in the Matrix. That's why the Matrix movie is so important, because you are in it. We need to unplug from this system. Most of us don't know we are slaves to the system. You call it the real world. We call it the Matrix, and it's time to just wake up, because it's a dream. All this is now taken from the Matrix. All the dialogue in the Matrix is real. He says, what is the truth? We don't have a financial crisis. It's just a crisis of blind ignorance. Unfortunately, you believe the illusion. Because you believe the illusion is real. And if you're going to feel the pain, you can feel the pain. Because you believe it's real. So the real problems are money, government, employment, jobs, money. So this is how the illusion works with money. Money is one of the greatest inventions of all time. It's a farce, it's a fad, it's a scam. There's nothing wrong with money. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not evil. It's just an abstraction. Abstractions are used to make complex things simple. Money makes it possible to easily transfer goods and services among those who create and consume them. Thus, the original purpose of money was to serve as a medium of exchange. Unfortunately, money has been hijacked like many other technologies. Governments, religions, you name it. At least 500 years before we were born, the technicians of money, the bankers, figured out a way to corrupt or steal it. Wall Street bankers have added more and better ways to steal it over time. Money is no longer just a medium of exchange. It is also treated and used as a commodity. The source of corruption is privatization and fraud. What would happen if you commoditize water and air with the help of privatization? Well, water is now 95% privatized in this world. Water now you cannot get just simply fresh water easily. It's all privatized. Everyone owns the land. If the water's on the land, they own the water. Air will soon be the same thing. Go to the movie Total Recall. It's exactly the same thing. The old one in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm telling you, everything they want to do is in the movies. They put it in your face. Many people would start dying from the lack of water and air. And it's simple. The remedy is even simpler. Stop it. Because the general population is so mentally enslaved, billions if not trillions are sifted from the money system by those who make nothing and add nothing to the system. Unsustainable. That's what you feel and see today in your so-called financial markets, or dare I say it, free market capitalism. Here's the bigger problem: education. 50% of people who read or hearing what I'm saying now, you won't understand it. 95% of people that do understand it won't do or say anything about it. There's that other movie. I'm sorry, I've watched so many movies, but they are the only way I can help explain. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was about Leonardo DiCaprio, The Wolf of Wall Street, I think it was called. He tells us exactly what the stocks and shares and Wall Street's all about. It's about these stock marketers, these stock market guys making money. These companies have shares. Him as a stockbroker, his job is to get, if you've got loads of money, get you to buy shares in this company. And when he sees you've got your money, he gets commission from that company for getting you to buy shares. And the more money you have, he then sees, okay, you've got more money. So he'll say, okay, I see what you're good. So, oh, did you know there's another company here that have got this going on? You should buy shares in this company. Your job is to his job as a stockbroker is to con you with loads of money into buying shares in all these other companies. So your money is making these other companies richer. And his job as the stockbroker is to get more and more commission from your money which you're putting into these companies. That's what it's all about. It's about the stockbrokers and their commissions. That's why it's so hard to get into stock exchange and stocks and shares, etc., etc. as a stockbroker. You have to know someone in there. They have to sponsor you to get in there, or get you in there through the back door or something. Government. The people of most so-called democratic countries seem to think they're in charge of their country. Of course, this is far from the truth. It's just another grand illusion. Today we're learning the hard way that there's a big difference between a democracy and a republic. We've been taught to believe that our country, wherever we live, is probably the best. Although everyone seems to believe, the media, thinking America is the best. But it's all about capitalists because it's all about capitalists, and obviously we're in democratic countries. But we are neither. The United States, let's talk about the United States, is a republic, not a democracy. It's a republic. The president can override any decision that is made by the whatever their committee is. I can't remember, with the Constitution, and I can't remember everything now. So if you feel like your government is ignoring you, now you know why. You are not in charge, you only pretend you're in charge, and it's welcome to the real world. They do all these voting for politicians, it's all fixed. They know who's going to be the next Prime Minister, as we've just had in the UK. They know who's going to be the president in America, because every president is hand-picked. A president cannot be a president unless he has a bloodline going back to the British monarchy. If he hasn't got genealogy going back to the British monarchy, he doesn't have blue blood in him, which means he cannot be the president. Fact. You do your research. Even in a interview they had with Obama on TV, on an interview they did with him on American TV, they actually went through his genealogy, and it showed his genealogy going back to the British monarchy. Dick Cheney's genealogy, Bush's genealogy, all goes back to the British monarchy. Obama is a confirmed known Muslim. Not knocking him for that. He can have his religion, that's fine. Not a Christian, no. Claims to be a Christian, but he's not a Christian. He's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He is also a confirmed known socialist, communist, Marxist. He studied all of that, university, etc. His parents, or adopted parents, whatever they were of the socialist, communist parties. It's what he studied, it's what he believes in. He is now the dictator of America. And he can override any decision. You see, in a republic, it matters very little what we say or what we want, because we are not in charge. This is not a real democracy that we live in. The sooner we learn this, the sooner we can begin to make real progress. This is why people all over the world feel so hopeless and disillusioned about real change and, of course, their future. No one really sees a way out, and it seems hopeless. There's that movie V for Vendetta. Absolutely brilliant movie, and it put it in your face exactly how you can stand up against the system. That's what Guy Fawkes was all about on November the 5th, Fireworks Day, which happens in the UK. Guy Fawkes was trying to blow up Parliament because he knew it was all fixed. He knew it was controlled. It was organised. It was like organised crime. That's what he was all about. And people celebrate Guy Fawkes Day in the UK, but they don't understand why it happened. V for Vendetta. If everyone stood up and stood against Parliament, politicians, it would be so much easier. People say, okay, well, what would we do instead? Well, we would go back to how it was in the original old days. You have prophets, you have a king. I mean, it's stupid in the UK, if you think about it. In the UK, we have a queen and we have a prime minister. What's the point? What does the queen do as a queen? What's the point? What's the point of her being queen? She doesn't make the laws. She doesn't make the rules. She doesn't even follow the laws and the rules. As the queen, when she was not inaugurated, when she was crowned queen, she promised to keep the laws of God. Really? Now, so because she's broken that pledge, broken that promise, she doesn't keep the Sabbath and various other things. She worships idols. And because she's broken those promises, we don't need to keep the laws of the land, which supposedly are her laws. Because she's broken her promise, we don't have to keep to ours. That's a fact. Now, jobs, work, technology. Why, if electricity was invented way back in the 1800s or early 19th century, electricity was new then. Over 100 years later, we're still using it and still governed by it. And yet technology is so great. Iron Man had this particle accelerator in his chest which produced an immense amount of energy. Cern, Large Hadron Collider, dumps an immense amount of energy which could power this whole world 1,000 times over. But they keep us slaves to their system. We have to go out and find work for money to pay for our bills to use electricity. Electricity, which is a concept 150 years old maybe, or I don't know, maybe less, 100, 80, I don't know, whatever, but it's well antiquated. So we are still back in the Victorian age, or even before that, working to make money to pay our electric bill. A technology which is arguably 100 years old. But they keep us slave in this system. If you don't have a job, then yeah, you can go out and find something. But just this whole job is just a cycle of slavery. Computers are the biggest threat in our existence because we don't use them correctly. Computers are the most powerful tool for destroying jobs and economies because everything's being made computerized, which puts more and more people out of jobs, more and more people out of work, more and more people not getting any money. And the money is the system they want to keep us in as slaves. Anyone who tells you that real job creation is effective or that job stimulates packages or the job stimulus packages will have a permanent lasting effect is not a computer scientist and doesn't know what they're talking about. A politician doesn't have a clue. The reason he doesn't have a clue is because we pay him to talk. We pay him to talk. Or rather, not him, we pay the banks or the government to put a puppet in front of us to talk, to tell us what they want us to know. We pay the government to pay him to talk to us what they want us to know, but what we don't really want to hear. I hope that makes sense. We are paying these politicians through the government, and these politicians are telling us what we have to do, but we're paying them. Do you get where I'm going? We are working to pay them to tell us that we have to go out and work more, to pay them. The remedy is simple. Stop it. Don't try to compete with technology. You will lose. We are losing. There's only one choice. You have to liberate your mind. You don't work as long and as hard as what you get paid for, or you don't get paid for. Why are you busting your backside in a job doing 40, 50, 60 hours a week? Many people don't get overtime even, and they're still doing extra hours because there's pride in their work. But if you're not doing the work, someone else will. Why are you... In my last job, I made myself ill. I made myself ill working so hard to prove myself to them. And I made myself ill. I'm not working now, and I'm not in a major rush to get a job. Yes, I want to get some money. I need to provide for my family. But it's not easy. Being part of the system is not easy. Well, it is easy to be part of the system, but you can't moan about it. But come out of the system, no, that's not easy. There's that other movie, Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise, prime candidate. He's like nearly the head of Scientology. He's the second below the actual head of Scientology. He's the next man down. He's a second in command of Scientology, the whole belief system. They don't even believe in God. They believe it's like a structure. This guy, I can't remember his name, wrote these books, and they study these books and they live by these books. There's no God, there's no evolutionism or anything, as it were. It's just a whole different created concept. It's crazy, really crazy. Stupid, in fact. And I'm sorry if some people don't like me calling it stupid. It is stupid because they don't really understand what they believe. They just believe it. But the thing is, when you want to come out of it, and it is a sect, it's a cult, because when you want to come out of it, they don't let you. They find out all the secrets about your life, the dark secrets of things you've done in your life. And if you want to come out, they, just like the Freemasonry and everything like that, they then threaten you to let your secrets out, to discredit you, to let all the papers know, to let everyone know that means anything or anything to you, to totally discredit you in your life, and you end up being a man on the street with nothing, or a person on the street with nothing. This is going on. I've gone into rants as well, and I'm not going to apologize because it is all very, very important. Very important. I'm going to read Psalms 46:1, because if this is worrying you, then you need to understand there is something better than life and life, but bills and electricity and the Large Hadron Collider, etc. There is something better, and it is God. It is Jesus, our Saviour. Jesus, who came, lived among us, showed us the way to live, showed us the way how to be with God, how to be at one with God. Yes, he died, but he still lives. He was only dead for he wasn't even dead. He died. They killed him. But that had to happen. It was prophesied in Isaiah. He had to die in order to get resurrected. He is now up in the sanctuary in heaven as our high priest. Don't believe anything this Pope or anyone else is saying to you about you need to bow down to him, etc. That's complete rubbish. The Catholic system is wrong. If you're a Catholic, please open up your eyes and understand. If you do worship God and God alone, that's great. Do not bow down to your statues or your images, etc. God and God alone. God is up here. God is up there. Use your head to communicate with God. Use your mouth to proclaim his message. Don't bow down to images or idols. I'm not saying you're wrong as a Catholic in what you worship. It's how you worship God. Don't worship the Pope. Muslims, you might worship God in the right way. Don't worship Muhammad. Muhammad didn't even prophesy anything. How can he be called a prophet? Wake up, people. In Psalms chapter 46, Psalms 46, and it's to the chief musician of the sons of Korah, a song upon Alamoth. God is our refuge and strength, very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, Though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us, the Lord of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the words of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. Desolations. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. This was reminded to me by my dear sister Judy. May God bless her and keep her, and my wife as well, Shirley. Amazing women. Also Psalms 91, if you're afraid or you're not sure or just feel a bit nervous about anything. Psalms 91, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but that shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall be no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under foot. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honour him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. Although I talk about this system, Cern, Haarp, this is to open up your eyes and have you wake up. This might not be as much as you know already, then good. Are you letting everyone else know? If this isn't as much as you know and you know more from this, praise God. I hope you do more research to let everyone know. Jesus is coming back. All the signs of what's happening in this earth. Now, it says in Matthew 24, when the disciples went to Jesus, and Jesus says, I will return. The disciples said, when? How will we know when you're coming? Jesus says, you will see signs. There'll be clear signs. earthquakes in diverse places, pestilences, diseases, wars, rumours of wars. How many times you hear in the news there's going to be a war, there's going to be this, going to be that? It never happens. Or even if it does happen, you don't know about it because they don't show it. Or if they do show you a war, they'll show you clippage or footage of a war, but it may not be actually happening. They might be showing you footage of an old war that's happened before, and you don't even know if it's real or not. Most of the time you're watching fiction. And all the news media all say the same story, the same time throughout the world. And if you're not getting the actual news or anything like that, you're getting, oh, David Beckham's got a new haircut, or, oh, Victoria Beckham's got a new hairstylist. And what? Who needs to know that? A lot of people are sheeple. They follow, I want to get the same haircut as David Beckham. I want to wear that same dress that Victoria Beckham wore. I want to, whatever, get a doctorate because Kanye West has just got a doctorate. So what? What's a doctorate going to do for you? He's still dumb. Alright, yeah, he's a big media mogul with music, etc., etc. But have you heard him talk? And he's empty-headed. He's made it in the music industry. He's made it in supposed fashion industry. What does he offer society? What does he offer society that actually helps society? I'm not doing a rant about Kanye West. It's just I just watched the video about when he received his doctorate, and it just annoyed me. God is good, you know. If you dedicate yourself, commit yourself, submit yourself to God, He will always take care and look after you. Doesn't mean to say you're going to go through easy time. You're going to have hard times because you have to battle with self, pride, ego, lack of money at times, maybe all the time, lack of food at times, maybe all the time. God always provides, always. And sometimes when you go through trials, sometimes that's not about you. As a Christian, if you go through trials, God lets you go through those trials so that others see you go through the trial and they will be touched by the way you handle it. You have to always remember there is not 1 hour or 1 day off from being a Christian. I fall prone to that a lot as well. You don't get a day off from being a Christian. It's not a job, it's a way of life. If you try to take a day off, it probably sets you back sometimes 10 years, perhaps. They call it backsliding. It's like the game of snakes and ladders. You're going up the ladder, you're making your way through life. All of a sudden you'll hit something, a trial or a temptation. You fall prone to it, you slide down the snake. You have to start going back all the way through. But the thing is, you have that knowledge there already, how to get back up to where you were. You just have to get there and go further. It's the fight against self. It's the fight against the principalities and darkness in this world. But it's not your fight. The battle is the Lord's. Commit, submit yourself to Him, our God, our Father in heaven, all of our, not just mine, yours too. But you have to believe and have faith. May God bless you. I hope this has been helpful. And may He protect you with His whole armour.